All right, joining me at this time is Tim Stewart. He's the director of training for an outfit called Combat Brain Training, and they specialize in senior services, those with ADHD, professional athletes, college, high school athletes, military members suffering from PTSD, dementia, etc. Those with problems and those without problems are looking to the next level. Uh, Tim, why don't you take a moment? First of all, welcome. Take a
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your background, and then we're going to get into neurological issues.
Perfect. Rick, I'm a farm boy out of Western Nebraska, and I grew up in that agricultural environment. I graduated fifth in my high school class, but I didn't make the top 30%. I mean, we're only about 600 people. But yet I've kept moving. I was a state champion athlete in high school 3 times out of 4 years in high school.
What sport? What sport? I got to interrupt you there. What sport?
Football and track and field. Once in football, twice in track and field. And the 2-mile relay was our matter of fact. The state record we set in 1973. It was broken as a state record, but it still holds as our high school record 53 years later. It's never been broken.
Wow.
So that's highlight. But I went to the Army. I met my wife in the Army. She was from Johnsburg, Illinois. We settled out here. We raised 3 children. We now have 12 grandchildren. We just had our first great grandson. So, we've got a great family. Along the way, industrial manager, plant manager, military leader, company commander, 21 years overall in the military. In 2001, September 11th, 2001, I left management to become a stockbroker, initially with Edward Jones and then in the banking channels. Did that for about 8 years. Then I published my first novel, started a speaking career. Zig Ziglar was my mentor and coach. His son Tom and daughter Cindy still remain great friends. And every Monday morning I start off with a Zoom call with the Ziglar
Wow.
Corporation. So just a wonderful family to be involved with. But I just work to make a difference in the world. I had a radio show called Two Bald Guys and a Microphone. And now you say, you got hair. Well, I didn't for about 8 years. But during the pandemic, I let it grow. And now my wife won't let me shave it again. So today I'm a bald guy undercover. So that's kind of the way I run with that. But during that, on that show, John Kennedy, the creator of Combat Brain Training, came on as a guest. With my military background, I got excited about it. Essentially, combat brain training, the idea is, making faster decisions in stressful environments, carry them out with confidence and success. In 2011, it was cut from the military budget and came out to civilian life as peak performance athletic training. But one of the things they found out with the Marine Corps that they're working with, that the Marines returning from deployment with traumatic brain injury, PTS, and other issues, their recovery time was cut in half. So essentially, what we do is we accelerate the processing speed of the brain. We increase the speed by about 250 milliseconds. And now that doesn't seem like a lot. That's a quarter of a second. But to put it in perspective, a major league batter, his reaction time improves so much, he's seeing a 100-mile-an-hour fastball like an 89-mile-an-hour fastball.
Oh, wow.
But imagine that ability to make better decisions, carrying them out wherever you're at in the world. I used to get upset when somebody would come into a networking thing with a skincare line, and they'd be like, if you have skin, you're in my target market. And I said, no, you got to have a niche. You got to have a target. Well, today, if you have a brain, you're in my target market. And if you have a brain that's slightly overwhelmed, you're really in my target market. If you have teenagers, yeah, you're right there in my target market. If you're an elder going through dementia, early onset Alzheimer's, or just cognitive fog left over from COVID, you're in my target market. Now, you'll notice there's a QR code on my screen here. That's actually my website. So if anybody wants to go find out more, they can just snap that QR code and it'll take them right there. Today, I want to talk about some of the neurological issues we've worked with. I've had great success with athletes. I've had great success with families, rebuilding relationships, teenagers actually communicating with parents. But a while back, I had an individual I saw in the gym, and it looked like he had had a stroke, and stroke recovery patients is somebody that we do a lot of work with. Excuse me. So I went over to chat with him, and it wasn't a stroke. They said he had Guillain-Barré syndrome. Now, I didn't really know what that was. I had heard it in conversation, but essentially, Guillain-Barré is an autoimmune disease where the body attacks the myelin coating on the nerves. And think of it like this, like a water hose, a leaky water hose, right? You turn on the faucet, but the water never gets to the sprinkler. And the same thing is happening. The signals, in their brain is saying, pick up that can. The arm will move, the hand will move, but the fingers don't get the signal. They can't grip. They can't do what they're supposed to do. I'd never worked with someone with Guillain-Barré, so I said, well, let me look it up and see what we can do. And they said, let's give it a try. After the first session, we're sitting there, and the guy's name is Bob, his wife is Darn. I said, Bob, have your fingers ever moved independently since you've gotten this? And his wife said his fingers haven't moved in 3 years. I don't know if you've got a wife. My wife quite often answers for me too. And I was basically going, well, I asked Bob, but I said, I think you should look at his hand because his fingers were starting to twitch and do this after just one session. After the third session, things had progressively gotten a little bit better. And this is after a neurologist telling them that he wasn't ever really going to get a lot better than he is right now. Well, it was Sunday before Memorial Day, so this is about a month and a half ago. And I was speaking at an event, a Memorial Day event. And so I called them on Sunday to see if they'd like to come see the other part of my life, one of my speaking events. And they said, well, it's kind of early in the morning. We were talking on FaceTime, and I said, well, no, that's great. And Darcy, would you like to see what Bob's doing right now? And I said, well, of course. She flipped the phone around, and he was fishing. Fishing was a big thing with him before the Guillain-Barré. His daughter had taken a Velcro strap and put the pole in his left hand so he could grip it tightly. But he could flip the bail, cast, and reel in after a neurologist had told him he wasn't going to get any better than this. And since then, we've had about 6 or 7 sessions now, and some of the progress he's made, we have been making some video testimony of this along the way, but we'll be able to see it. The same thing, I've had the same or similar success with Parkinson's, with MS, all where the body is attacking the myelin coating. And essentially what happens, all of our research comes out of MIT. A Dr. Akira Yoshi, now unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but he had a hypothesis that the brain will change immediately under robust stimulation. And essentially what that means is that when I can push your brain to a 20% failure rate, it's going to rebuild itself. Now, Dr. Christine Greinberger out of Rochester University talked about the neural plateau, or talks about, she's still up at Cook. Matter of fact, she has her own lab in Brandeis University now. The neural plateau, why do we achieve to a certain level and then we plateau? She said, if we can push through that neural plateau, it will create neuroplasticity. The same thing that Akira Yoshi was saying with robust stimulation. And she's proven it, and he had proven it. And you know what researchers do? They keep researching. They research a whole lot of things, but they stay in the college lab and they keep doing. Well, John Kennedy, when he created combat brain training, inadvertently created a system that meets all the criteria for both of these researchers. We can push that brain to a 20% failure rate. Now, for the healthy brain or the normal brain, whatever that means, it's going to accelerate it. It's going to make it faster. The MLB baseball player is going to have a better batting average of the fewer errors. The professional basketball players might actually start making free throws, right? Not that that's a hitching point for me, but this whole way the normal brain will accelerate faster and become better at whatever it is they do. Zig used to say motivational speaking won't allow you to do anything, but it will allow you to do whatever you do better. And that's kind of the same process here. Just because you go through brain training, you're not automatically going to be a neurosurgeon or be able to speak 8 languages. But whatever you do, you'll be better. You'll be a better parent. You'll be a better student. You'll be a better athlete, a better foreman, a better whatever. It doesn't matter. When the brain's working faster, we're better at whatever it is we do. Well, on the flip side of that, the brain that has had trauma, a stroke, a traumatic brain injury, it's been hit with things like Parkinson's disease, MS, or Guillain-Barré syndrome. The brain will rebuild itself when it gets the proper stimulation. And with the combat brain training, that's what we do. And we do everything with a very simple analog process that through our training, the brain will actually begin to rebuild itself. And I witness it every day. I witness miracles with these neurological issues. I witness kids with severe ADHD putting back into a mainline classroom and getting ABs in their studies. I've witnessed families coming back together. So it's one of the most incredible things I've ever been a part of.
Give us an example of what it would be like a training session, what that involves. You just said that you've witnessed people make these dramatic improvements. What does it
There it is. If I hold it just right, you can see, there it is. The green screen keeps popping it out. But you got a little view of that. We do everything with a sheet of colored arrows right now. They're left, right, up, and down. They're red, blue, green, and yellow. And through the pattern, we have the client, the person, the patient, whatever you want to call them, recite those arrows. We show them. We do a baseline. We time how long it takes them to read those arrows. Directions only: right, left, up, down, left, left, down, up. We time how long it takes them to read that sheet. We take them through 5 steps of anticipation, of pattern recognition, of creativity by changing the color to a fruit: red's an apple, yellow's a banana, green's a lime, blue's a blueberry. And by doing those things, within 20 minutes, their brain is already processing information 15 to 20% faster. Then we add in a few other steps. And with those steps, we encourage the brain to communicate left to right hemisphere faster. The corpus callosum is the connector between the left and right hemispheres of the brain. All emotions, all decisions are made emotionally with our right brain, justified logically with our left brain. When we can increase the speed of communication from right brain to left brain and back, the decision made is discerned faster and carried out with confidence, which is why on the battlefield, it reduced warfighting casualty by over 30%. On the golf course, it's increased. We have several LGPA golfers, and now we have 2 PGA golfers on our training list. It's increased their returns. They're earning more money. They're finishing higher in tournaments. But at the same time, it's helping elders get their life and their happiness back. I have one lady with early onset dementia. When we first met, she was a little pan-faced, and she'd be, "Hi, how are you?" And it was great. As we started talking and getting her going, after about 3 sessions, she just is bubbly and happy. But one of the things I do is she'll start to get frustrated as she's going through the training. And so I ask her, "What's the happiest memory of your life?" And she said, "Well, I got married at Lake Tahoe." So I write the word Lake Tahoe on the top of her paper. And as she starts to get frustrated, I just tap that Lake Tahoe. She looks at it, she smiles, her body floods with dopamine. We clear the cortisol out, and she's right back training. And after about 6 sessions, she is just as spry and normal mentally as one should be at that age.
Wow, what a story. What a story.
Yeah.
We're out of time here, Tim. I really appreciate going into detail, but I got to ask you this. You mentioned dopamine, and that set up an alarm. I probably tell people 4 or 5 days a week, 4 or 5 times a week. I tell someone that I work out quite a bit, lift and moderate cardio, and I do it because, well, you're supposed to, it's good. but I am addicted to the dopamine and the endorphin rush that it gives me. It's like, oh my God. Which
Right?
is that normal?
Yes, absolutely it is. And that's the whole idea behind dopamine. I mean, all addictions rotate around dopamine. There's a big place for us in addiction recovery, in AA. And if we could just get some of the people to get on board with this, because you're going to be addicted to something, right? You may as be addicted to something positive, but it's all about the dopamine. That first heroin rush, they get this big dopamine, but each successive dose of heroin doesn't produce the same amount of dopamine, which is why they keep using more and they get addicted. At the same time, exercising, working out does the same thing. Who knows? Maybe you're going to be doing a triathlon in the next year or two. You keep this up.
All right, Tim Stewart, good stuff. And we're showing your website on our screen right now. I look forward to having you back. I really, this is information you just don't hear about ever anywhere. And that's what I really
Uh,
appreciate.
we are the only ones in the world doing this. Nobody else has what we have, and that's if you really want to get a little bit better, check us out. Get on by set an appointment. Let's just have a conversation.
Sounds good. All right, folks, there's the director of training for combat brain training, and they service those with seniors with mental health issues, those with ADHD, athletes, PTSD, dementia, those looking to take their level to another game, or game to another level.
Either way works.
Thank you, Tim. Back with more after this.